The invasion began with probably the most important assault of them all. If we failed to occupy Ptolemais Theron, our fleet would have nowhere to resupply. Fortunately, due to us having secured an alliance with the Medewi before we even set sail, their armies were already in position to coordinate the strike. Our combined forces flooded the streets, with Diomedes scoring his first victory. With the foothold established, our next target was Alexandria, and after that Antioch of course, along with the possibility of taking back the seat of our ancestors. As a parting gift before we advanced into Egypt, the Medewi granted us command of some of their finest warriors. Furthermore, we ordered 600 of our assault infantry to stay behind, to train additional Ethiopians to later be used as supporting units during our invasion. The Seleucids were quick to react, with them trying to perform a naval invasion from their holdings in Arabia. But that is exactly what we had our fleet to defend against, and also another reason why Ptolemais Theron was such an important town. Our strike was swift and effective. Our many turns researching naval battle tactics in the past was really paying off now. It did so once again as we slapped their entire naval presence in the Red Sea, meaning the Seleucids had no way to backdoor our plans. We marched straight into Egypt. However, unexpectedly, a Seleucid ally showed up to defend their lands. It gave us a bit of trouble with them forcing us to reposition our units. However, their defenses were no match to our combined Bactrian and Ethiopian alliance. This did mean we took higher casualties earlier in our mission here than we actually expected, but no chance it would slow us down while we had the edge. Mere swarmers fell soon after. Another attempt to what I only can call a response to our surprise invasion was the thorax reform. That supposedly revolutionized the Seleucid army, but I doubt they can afford it if we are to conquer Alexandria itself. The city was heavily fortified, with an additional navy garrisoning the famed city. But after a while of preparing siege equipment, the battle was on. And we used quite a cunning tactic to get us ahead here. While the vast majority of our armies had their assault from this direction here, a small contingent of Ethiopian archers had used the cover of darkness to get in behind the Seleucid defenses. This meant that once the assault began, they would unopposed scale the walls. Our main army was basically a massive distraction, so we could open one of the gates for our cavalry to flood the streets. Despite the extreme casualties it took to secure Alexandria, it was more than worth it. Apart from being able to muster these thorax units that originally were intended to be used by the Seleucid armies, this also gave us straight access to the Mediterranean itself. This was a completely new warfront, meaning establishing a presence was a must. However, this was something the Seleucid realized too, so they immediately foiled our plans to then launch another major invasion from Arabia. Sadly, this was the start of a long line of battles I didn't get to record the replays of before the last Rome 2 update, meaning for quite a bit of time now, you won't see any battles. Nevertheless, our fleet caught them at the coast, making sure nothing came of this attack. And may I just say, thank Poseidon for those ballista ships. They were bloody crucial here. But I actually made an honest mistake here in occupying the port settlement nearby, meaning the Seleucids got the chance to smash our fleet to bits. This was then followed up by this incredible defense of the Nile, where the Kyrenians used the low-flowing parts of the river to slam into our lines. This was a battle map I had never seen before while playing a campaign, so it was honestly a surprise we scored a heroic victory here. After that battle, and as the Medewi had occupied Memphis, we marched towards the west to secure a second port, so we could build up a new fleet. This frontier would inevitably be conquered and held by a new mercenary army. But instead of this side quest, I'll rather talk about Armenia. You see, as we basically had the Seleucids on the ropes and only the Macedonians threatening us from the north, I sent up 2 entire legions, expecting Mesopotamia to be in safe hands. And sure enough, we captured not just 1 or 2 settlements, but 3. Okay, Samosata was basically abandoned right away, as the Macedonian armies approached and myself believing Toxborg would be easier to defend. And for quite a while after this specific event here, we didn't feel the presence of the Macedonians till it was too late. In the meantime though, we advanced on the Nomads, hoping to seize the Caucasus Mountains and use them as a natural shield against the horse lords. We did also contemplate a proper mission into the steppes, but got cold feet after seeing a horde nearby. Furthermore, we ended up making contact with Rome around this time. As I was already locked in a war on basically 3 fronts, I didn't want to open up a 4th one. So we ended up making friendly relations with the Romans by joining some of their many wars. By this point we had 2 fully formed fleets in the Mediterranean, until we made a foolish attempt to attack Anatolia from the sea as well, which we got soundly defeated doing. And also, as we were trying to flee, the Seleucid navy stopped by to get absolutely crushed. Fuck the Seleucids, man. We then returned to Alexandria, where we then had our fleet replenished. The Seleucids were basically a wet noodle compared to the Atropat Khan that we defeated so long ago. They had nothing. The only one who actually was able to resist us was the Macedonians. And after going back on the offensive again because we thought our Samosata was an easy target, 2 Macedonian armies assaulted the city. And although we took down basically half of their entire fighting force, we lost the battle, and with it Demetrius I, our faction leader. Not only that, but the Udi besieged our fortress in the Caucasus, right after we took control of it. This invasion of Armenia and beyond was an obvious mistake by this point. The only set of reinforcements I could afford to invest into this conflict was a single army from Mesopotamia, leaving just one other army to defend the entire central part of our kingdom from the Seleucid noodles. They had to be finished off, and fast, so we created a second legion made of mercenaries and levies to patrol the south, while Diomedes and the Ethiopian Auxiliary Legion, which had mostly been replaced by Greeks from Alexandria, marched for the Levant accompanied by our 2 fleets sailing along the coast. The city defense against the Udi was almost equally as impressive a defense as when we stalled out the siege of our capital, meaning we defended our northern front. Right after, our reinforcements all the way from Armenia appeared with a completely modernized army from the Thorax reforms. These units ended up being exactly what we needed to conquer the rest of this mountain range. This entire front line was basically a stalemate after this, which basically doesn't matter as we made plenty of progress in the Levant. First we crushed a Seleucid fleet, and then quickly after that, 3 of their mightiest commanders in a decisive battle. From here on out it was smooth sailing. The Ethiopian auxiliaries annexed all of Nabatea and secured the roads through the desert to connect Egypt to the rest of our kingdom. Our fleets, however, experienced quite a bit of pressure. After slapping one army trying to repel our blockade, a major Seleucid fleet showed up, causing us to withdraw. We tried to do the same with the second fleet too, but it ended up getting caught, leading to one of my most spectacular naval victories ever. There was also this stupid interaction where the Seleucid forces straight up just passed our outposts to take out both our fleets and the port itself. Of course we recaptured the town, but it was a massive break in our momentum. The walled city of Demetrius fell to a combined attack from both the east and southwest, officially cutting the Seleucid landmass in half. Apparently the desert regions were harder to occupy than expected, as our Mauryan legions got cut down. But in time it would fall to our might. Our navy did manage to both capture Salamis and even more impressively defend it against the Macedonian fleet. At the cost of basically every ship. It was quite a mess though, so forget about that. Antioch was secured by having the Seleucids sally out, and then basically marching into the Seleucid capital without issues. Our surprise invasion into Egypt had clearly paid off, with us soon beginning our invasion of Anatolia. Or that would have been the case if not for the fact that this extensive operation had left our armies fatigued. Exactly what the Macedonians must have waited for. Immediately after, a siege of Antioch was established, with additional armies on their way to reinforce. Not wanting to risk another experienced army being destroyed, we made a rushed evacuation sailing straight for Salamis. And as our fleet was doing this, the Macedonians ordered a strike at the shores of Egypt, not to mention the fact that the Nationality rose up against our so-called tyrannic rule and straight up slaughtered 2 of our legions before laying siege to Caire. Not to forget the Nomads who still occasionally wandered down into our lands to either raid, sack or kill our villages and citizens. We might be the largest kingdom in the world, but without any armies to defend it, we might as well be called the most vulnerable kingdom ever. Basically, our situation can be described like this: with 1 army recovering at Salamis, 2 armies defending the Caucasus and are badly wounded while doing it, 1 army defending Toxborg and the entirety of Mesopotamia, which clearly was a lost cause as Seleucids just kept flooding through their lines there, and just 1 minor army of levies in Egypt. Our realm was drastically outnumbered here. Again. Reinforcements were on the way from Armenia, but they are almost 8 turns away. We might actually have to use scorched earth tactics to survive this.